Alright, so today we've got an intro to section 1.1. This is basically the all-out basics of geometry. Points, lines, and planes. Everything in space is made up of points, lines, and planes. Alright, so let's just start with points. If I told you to pick a point, you have to think of a way to describe it. Am I picking the top left? Or am I going to pick somewhere in the middle? But it's hard to describe. How am I going to pick this point right here in the middle? Okay, so I'm going to make this picture a little easier. Now tell me which point you choose. Alright, if you look at A, B, C, D, any of these letters, you know exactly which one you're saying. If I were to say pick point B, you know exactly which one point B is because it's labeled point B. So as we go through this entire year, we're going to take every single point. We're going to start labeling them so that way it just gets very straightforward, very simple, and everyone knows what you're talking about when you talk about it. Alright, so other things about points. 0 dimensions. Alright, it's in one specific spot, and we name them with capital letters. Alright, easy to write capital letters. Point A down here, point B here, C or D. They all have a capital letter accompanying the point. Alright, then we go to pick lines. It's a straight line, and I could even make another one on here if I wanted to. Let's put some arrows at the end. I'm going to pick a line from I to G. Alright, now that's a line going through IG. So the way we name these, any of these lines, is it's one dimensional first off. It goes in one direction, left, right, or up, down. And it's straight. That's what makes it the one dimension. And you use any 2 points to describe a line. Alright, I need 2 points to describe a line because I need to know where's it starting and where's it ending. Alright, or as you see down here, you could use one lowercase letter. Sometimes you'll see that in a problem that's started, but if we already have points on the paper or on the picture, we're always going to name them with those points. So if I go to name line AB, I'm going to put the 2 letters AB, and then I'm going to put a line above it. The reason is it's a line. Now, at the ends of each of these, there's arrows. Since there's arrows at the end, there's arrows at the end up there. If there weren't arrows, there's not going to be arrows. Alright, so let's talk about collinear. Alright, definition of collinear is any 2 points that lie on the same line. Okay? And actually, any 2 points are collinear. If I were to pick any 2 points, let's say this one and this one, I just drew 2 random points. It's possible to draw a line through those, which makes them collinear. Let's get those out of here. 3 collinear points is a little more specific. It has to go on one line. So we're looking at point A, point P, and point B. So name 3 collinear points. A, P, and B. And if you look at that, if you look at point C, it's not collinear with A, P, and B because obviously it's not on the line. So collinear, we'll try to make it as straightforward as possible. It's got to be on a line for it to be collinear. Alright, now let's talk about planes. 2-dimensional, up and down and left and right. Usually I'm going to draw it as a parallelogram, kind of to show that it's a surface laying down, that it's not just straight up and down. That's typically what you'll see in your book, quizzes, tests, anything that we're doing. We'll see a kind of like a parallelogram shape to describe a plane, but essentially it does go on forever this way, goes on forever in every direction. You could write it using one capital script letter. We've got this capital G here, or 3 non-collinear points. So we just talked about collinear, so non-collinear means that they're not on the same line. Okay, so if I was describing this plane, let's use A, let's use B, and now I need to pick a 3rd point that is not collinear with A and B, and it's one of those. I'm just going to go A, B, and C. Alright, multiple different correct answers for that. You could have done A, B, D, D, A, B, D, C, B, and I could keep going, but I don't want to bore you. Alright, coplanar. Any points that are on the same plane. Where's my rectangle? There it is. Alright, so any points that are on the same plane. So let's take a look at this plane right here. one right in front. Okay, I'll select that. Let's change it to red so we can see it. Alright, so if you look at that plane outlined in red, any points that are coplanar are points that are on that plane. W is on that plane, N is on that plane, P and M. Alright, but none of the other ones, X, S, R, Q, and T, aren't on that plane. Alright, and to kind of help with this picture, anytime you see a dotted line, let's get rid of this red. Anytime you see a dotted line, it means it's behind something. So try and picture this as a 3D shape with that line, with the one in red. Let's actually put it back again. With the one in red in front, so that everything, and the one on top in front, so that anything else you wouldn't see if it was a solid shape. If I were to take this front plane, if I can select it, there it goes, and fill it in. Oh, there. Let's fill this in. You can't see anything behind it. Okay, so instead of doing that, we take everything and we make it a dotted line. Those are the things that are behind it, so we can still get more detail in our picture. So take a minute, go ahead, pause the video, and try these 4 questions. See if you can answer these. I'm going to answer them in just a little bit. Okay, so I said 4 questions, but there's actually 3. The first one is just tell me, is it true or false? So DP, line DP, intersects my plane at point P. So the way to view this picture, solid line, at point P, now it becomes dotted, which means it's behind. So this started out in front, from D to P, in front of the plane. At point P, it goes through the plane, and then it goes behind. Question 1's true. Plane U, the plane, the shaded parallelogram, intersects DP at more than one point. So for it to intersect at more than one point, that would mean point D would have to be on the plane, or if I drew a point here, or a point down here on the dotted part, which means it's behind, it would have to be on the plane, but it actually isn't, so that's false. And points A, P, and D are collinear. Now, let's make this straightforward. Can I draw a straight line through A, through P, and through D? And the answer is going to be no. Alright. Take a minute, read over these questions, pause it, try these questions, see if you can answer them, see if they're making sense for you. Okay, number 1. What point is coplanar with Q, P, and R? So if you look at where Q, P, and R are, they're on this back right side. Okay, that if I continue that shape, I cross through point N. So point N is coplanar. Number 2, are there any points on TW, the line TW right here, besides T and W? So drawn, there aren't any points. But if we want to make this a trick question, I could draw this one, I could label it point A, and I could say that. But we're going to kind of pretend that wasn't there, and we're just going to say no. There's no pictured points on line TW. Does WM lie in plane A? Now, if you were looking at this strictly in 2 dimensions, yes it is. But we want to look at this as a 3-dimensional shape laying on top of this plane, and this is actually going up and down. So the answer to number 3 is going to be no. Name a point collinear with M and X. Well, to find a point collinear with M and X, we want to draw a line through M and X. When we do that, S is the one that's collinear. Oops, that's another line. Let's get the pen back. There we go. S. Alright, so let's go over a couple things. Just take some notes on this as we're going, because this is something that you're going to have memorized. Number of dimensions for points, 0. Number of dimensions for a line, 1. I don't know why that says that. That should say plane. Planes have 2 dimensions. Okay, so how do we name it? Points, 1 capital letter. lines, two capital letters, and when we named that, we actually put arrows above it to show that it was line, and a plane was three capital letters, like plane AB. Well, I already started, so plane ABD. Now, that doesn't have any lines above it because it's a plane. Keep in mind that lines and planes, we also were able to do a script letter. So this could be M or a capital letter, plane M. Alright, so we've got points, lines, and planes, and those are actually the basis of geometry. We will have a second video following up on this for the rest of section 1.1.